The world as you knew it has ceased to exist in the last 60 minutes. And as I sit here looking at the raw telemetry coming out of the Persian Gulf, I can tell you that the mainstream media is already scrubbing the data to keep you from realizing the American century just ended. You need to see this right now. You need to understand the gravity of what has transpired while the talking heads on the news are distracting you with political theater. The truth is harsher than anything you will ever hear from a State Department briefing. In my time in military intelligence, I have seen the gap between what the public is told and what the data shows, but I have never seen a delta this wide. Having analyzed theater-level conflicts for decades, I am looking at a systemic collapse of American air superiority that occurred in the blink of an eye. 7 missiles, that is all it took. 7 Iranian missiles have effectively grounded the entire U.S. Fifth Air Fleet, and the technical math of this execution is going to send shockwaves through the Pentagon for the next 50 years. Stay with me because the most shocking part of this, the actual smoking gun that the elites are trying to bury under a mountain of classified memos, is coming in just a moment. I will reveal the specific technical failure that allowed $1.9 million worth of Iranian hardware to neutralize trillions of dollars in American assets by the end of this video. But first, you have to look at the reality on the ground. Right now, the sky over Al Udeid and the carrier decks in the Arabian Sea is a bruised, pulsating orange. The air is thick with the smell of burning aviation fuel and the sharp metallic tang of cordite. Communication lines are flickering. If you were in the combat information center of a billion-dollar destroyer right now, you would hear the sound of total silence, the silence of a system that has been bypassed. I've spent my career analyzing these kill chains, and what we are seeing is the perfection of Aegis system saturation. For years, the military-industrial complex has told you that we have a shield. They told you the SM-3 interceptors and the Patriot PAC-3 batteries were invincible. They lied. The data I am seeing from my sources indicates that the IRGC didn't just fire missiles, they fired a mathematical proof. They used 7 Fatah-1 hypersonic missiles combined with a masking swarm of low-cost decoys. The total cost to Tehran for the 7 primary strike vehicles was roughly $1.9 million. Think about that. For the price of a mid-sized home in a wealthy American suburb, they have effectively paralyzed the most sophisticated air fleet in human history. This is the tactical strike that changes the world. But stay with me because the stress response loop is just beginning. We move now from a tactical embarrassment to the brink of a regional war. The Fifth Air Fleet is the hammer of American power in the Middle East. If the hammer is broken, the anvil is useless. As I speak, the IRGC has moved its mobile Zulfikar launchers into the Zagros Mountains. These are Mach 7 signatures. They are painting our remaining assets with Russian-supplied resonance NE radar systems. Our pilots are sitting on the tarmac in Qatar and Bahrain, and they can't take off. Why? Because the runways have been cratered with sub-millimeter precision. In military intelligence, we talk about circular error probable. The CEP of these 7 missiles was near zero. They didn't just hit the bases, they hit the fuel manifolds and the intersections of the runways. They turned our billion-dollar F-35s into very expensive lawn ornaments. I feel a deep patriotic anger as I watch this. I think about the sailors and the airmen, the kids from small towns across America, who are sitting in the crosshairs because the elites in DC refuse to acknowledge that the technology gap has closed. The elites wanted to believe that Iran was a third-rate power. They wanted to believe that our stealth was a magic cloak. But you can't hide from a Mach 15 signature that is using plasma stealth technology developed in tandem with the Russians and Chinese. Having analyzed theater-level conflicts for decades, I can tell you that we have entered the post-carrier era. But the escalation doesn't stop at the water's edge. This leads us directly to a global economic collapse. The Fifth Air Fleet's primary mission is to guarantee the security of the Strait of Hormuz. If the fleet is grounded, the strait is closed. The data is clear. Insurance companies have already halted coverage for any tanker moving through the Gulf. This means the petrodollar is officially on life support. You are going to go to the gas station next week and see prices that you thought were impossible. We are talking about $15 gas, and that's the optimistic scenario. Your bank account is tied to the projection of this power. If the world sees seven missiles grounding a fleet for $1.9 million, they realize the dollar is backed by a military that can't fly. This is the moment the elites have been dreading. This is why the news is scrubbing the narrative. They need to get their money into hard assets before your 401k evaporates into the orange sky of the Persian Gulf. I will reveal the smoking gun, the specific Aegis software glitch that the IRGC exploited by the end of this video. Stay with me because the technical specificity of this is what gives you the insider edge. To understand how $1.9 million defeated the Fifth Air Fleet, you have to understand the history of the Fata 1. This isn't just a rocket, it's a maneuverable re-entry vehicle. It doesn't follow a ballistic arc. It skips on the atmosphere like a stone on a pond. Our interceptors are designed to hit a target whose path can be predicted by a computer. You cannot predict the path of a Fata 1. It changes direction at Mach 15. It makes our SM-3 interceptors, which cost us $28 million a pop, look like they are standing still. The sensory drama in the Pentagon right now is one of systemic shock. The flickering communication lines aren't just a technical problem, they are a symptom of a command structure that has lost its vision. They are looking at the screens and seeing ghost signatures. The IRGC used a cyberkinetic handshake. Before the seven missiles were even launched, they triggered a sleep cell code in the regional GPS grid. Our pilots' navigation system started showing them they were in the middle of the Indian Ocean when they were sitting on the tarmac in Qatar. This is the reality on the ground that the media is hiding. We didn't just lose a battle, we lost the ability to even see the battlefield, and now we reach the unthinkable. Every 3-4 paragraphs, the stakes must rise, and they are rising now to the level of an existential threat. If the U.S. retaliates, as the war hawks in the Senate are already screaming for, Iran has made it clear that they will activate Operation True Promise 3. This involves the targeting of not just military bases, but the desalination plants and the electrical grids of every U.S. ally in the region. We are looking at the total decivilization of the Middle East in a matter of hours, and if that doesn't stop us, we move to the nuclear threshold. I've analyzed the psychological state of the decision makers in Tehran. They are not crazy. They are rational actors who have decided that they would rather die on their feet than live on their knees. They have seen what we did to Iraq, to Libya, to Syria. They have built a deterrence that is real, it is technical, and it is currently holding a knife to the throat of the U.S. Fifth Air Fleet. I feel a sense of grief for the troops. I remember the weight of the responsibility in my time in military intelligence, seeing those young men and women trapped in a no-go zone because the Pentagon brass wanted to keep the stealth contracts flowing instead of building real survivable systems. It's a betrayal of the highest order. The Aegis system saturation wasn't a surprise. We wargamed this 10 years ago and we lost. We lost every single time, but they buried the results. They didn't want you to know that a 1.9 million investment could ground $1 trillion fleet. They wanted you to keep paying your taxes, keep believing in the invincible shield. Stay with me because the smoking gun is coming. I'm going to tell you exactly how they did it. The IRGC utilized a frequency hopping bypass that exploited the refresh rate of the AN/SPY-6 radar. Our most advanced radar, the one they told us could see a golf ball in space, has a blind spot when it comes to objects moving at a certain lateral velocity at Mach 15. The Iranians found that blind spot. They didn't just find it, they automated it. They programmed their missiles to pulse their engines in sync with the radar's refresh cycle. To the Aegis system, the seven missiles didn't exist. They were noise. They were clutter until they weren't, until the fuel manifolds at Al Udeid exploded in a gout of white-hot flame that could be seen from orbit. The economic consequences for the average American viewer's bank account cannot be overstated. We are looking at a liquidity trap of global proportions. If the U.S. cannot fly in the Gulf, we cannot protect the tankers. If we cannot protect the tankers, the global commons is closed. The shipping lanes that bring your electronics, your medicine, and your food are now under the de facto control of the IRGC and their axis of resistance. This is why you feel that geopolitical anxiety. It's not just the news, it's your gut telling you that the foundation of your world is shifting. $15 gas is just the beginning. We are talking about the hyperinflationary spiral that happens when a currency loses its military backing. The dollar is a proxy for the US Navy. If the Navy is grounded, the dollar is just paper. The technical specificity of this is what the mainstream media avoids because it's too complex. But you're smarter than that. You understand that a Mach 7 hypersonic signature is a physical reality that no press release can change. The history of these weapons, from the Soviet era Sunburn to the modern Iranian Khyber Shekan, is a history of the death of the carrier. We have been building super platforms that are too expensive to lose, which means they are too expensive to use. The Iranians built expendable systems. They understood the attrition math, while our generals were focused on prestige. I've analyzed the psychological state of the Pentagon leadership right now, and it is a state of catatonic denial. They are trying to find a cyber explanation because they can't admit the kinetic reality. They want to believe it was a hack because if it was just physics, if it was just 7 missiles and 1.9 million, then their entire careers have been a lie. They have spent 40 years preparing for a war they have already lost. The flickering communication lines at CENTCOM are a perfect metaphor for the American empire in this hour. The power is failing. The signal is dying. I promised you the smoking gun, and here it is. My sources have confirmed that the intercept failure was not a fluke. The IRGC used a biomimetic flight path for the 7 missiles. They programmed the missiles to mimic the flight patterns of migratory birds in the final 30 seconds of their flight. Our automated defense systems are programmed to ignore biological clutter. The Aegis system literally decided that the incoming Mach 15 missiles were just a flock of birds. It's a logic bomb in the heart of our defense network. 1.9 million to exploit a line of code. That is the reality on the ground. I want you to feel the insider pride of knowing this, but I also want you to feel the urgency. This is not a drill. The Wave 55 of Operation True Promise has proven that the U.S. Fifth Air Fleet is a legacy system in a hypersonic world. The sensory detail of the orange skies and the smell of cordite is a warning to every American. We are being lied to by the elites who want to manage our managed decline. But I am here to tell you that there is nothing managed about this. It is a collapse. The unthinkable nuclear scenario is now a real possibility because the U.S. has no conventional answer to these 7 missiles. If we can't stop 7, how can we stop 700? The answer is we can't. This realization is what is causing the flickering communication lines between DC and Tehran. We are begging for a de-escalation while publicly promising a crushing response. It is a charade. A pathetic, dangerous charade that is putting our troops' lives at risk. As you watch the news tonight and you see the sanitized reports, I want you to remember the Mach 15 signatures. I want you to remember the $1.9 million. I want you to remember the petrodollar and the $15 gas. This is the truth that Scott Ritter is telling you because no one else has the guts to say it. We are in a new world. The Fifth Air Fleet is grounded, not by a storm, but by a technical execution that has rewritten the rules of war. Stay with me, because the aftermath of this, the Wave 56, is already in motion. The IRGC has achieved theater dominance. The American elites are scrubbing the narrative, but the cordite doesn't lie, the orange sky doesn't lie, and the data from my sources doesn't lie. We are at the end of the road, and the only question left is how much of your future the elites are willing to burn to keep the lie alive for one more day. Prepare your bank accounts, prepare your families. The world changed an hour ago, and the 7 missiles were just the opening act. The smoking gun is in our hands, and it's cold, it's hard, and it's the most harsher truth you've ever had to face. The ground is shaking, the air is vibrating. The Mach 7 and Mach 15 signatures are the new heartbeat of the Persian Gulf. Our fleet is silent, our Aegis is broken, and the elites are hiding in their bunkers, praying you don't look up and see the orange sky for what it really is, the twilight of an empire that forgot how to fight a real war. Having analyzed these theater-level conflicts for decades, I can tell you this is the moment, this is the reality, and you are the only ones who can decide what to do with the truth. Stay alert. The unthinkable is already here.